Hello and welcome. My name's Leanne. I live in Australia and this is my crafty cupboard. Welcome to part one of sewing Wilbur, a wee whittle pal, super cute miniature teddy. You'll see me use these tools throughout making the bear. I printed my pattern onto some thick card and now I'm cutting it out exactly on the lines. Oh, it's so much fun. I can't resist laying out all the template pieces in the shape of the little bear to see what he's going to become. Let's take a look at the fabric I use for the paw pads. Any thin upholstery fabric is fine. Because he's such a miniature bear, try and get the thinnest fabric that you can. So these are all examples. That was like a fake suede. This one's got a very, very low pile to it. This has got a thicker pile. And so this is what I use for the bare body to give the appearance of a thicker fur. So this one's quite thick. Trace the pieces onto the wrong side of your fabric. It's okay to put them really close together because you're going to cut out exactly on the line, so try and be as economical as you can when laying out the pieces. It's time to draw around the templates. Any pen is fine actually because you're going to cut it on those lines. But I try to go for a pen that doesn't smudge. Make sure you've got all the pieces that you need. When sewing bears, you need to choose a thread that's quite strong because you pull very firmly and stuff quite firmly, so it needs to stand up. These are all examples of threads that I use. This shows you how much thicker it is than a standard thread. That's the needle I'm going to use for this guy, and I choose the colour that matches. I use a thimble to help me push the needle through the fabric because your finger can get quite sore. And you sew the bear together using a very small back stitch, going close to the edge of the fabric but not so close that you rip off the edge. Pull each stroke firmly. It's a stabbing back stitch rather than a running back stitch, so that you just stab the needle from the back through to the front and then straight through again. This ensures that you don't get any puckers in the bear, and you pull each stitch firmly as you go. Because the pin got in my way, you can see I'm now marking the gap opening with a pen, and you stitch all the way around and stop there to leave an opening in the back. This is how I tie it off. I'm just going through that little stitch that I took, leaving the needle there and wrapping the thread around a few times, holding it tightly and pulling the needle through. Place the yarn piece and the ball pad right sides together and stitch along the straight line. now place both pieces of the arm together, the outer arm and the inner arm, and stitch around, being sure to mark and leave open the little gap so that you can turn it in the right way. Turning these tiny pieces that are quite thick through to the right side does require you to bring your patience and to breathe slowly and deeply. I think Maggie thought that I'd caught a cute little mouse or something for her to eat. Sew the sides of the legs together, leaving an opening at the back for turning and leaving the whole bottom open to sew the paw pad in afterwards. Unfortunately, I have lost the video footage of me sewing on the paw pad. So let's take a stroll through my garden as I explain to you what I did. You could see me folding the paw pad in half. That's so I could line up the center of it with the top and bottom seams of the leg. Then with right sides together, the furry sides together, I stitch all the way around the edge of the paw pad with a back stitch. Don't leave any gap. Okay, lovely garden stroll. Let's get back to sewing. I use my overlocker tweezers. They're sort of bent and long and thin when I'm working on small bears to turn everything through and later just stuff them. I'm being very careful though because the points of them can easily make a hole through the fabric. So I'm making sure to not push forcefully with the tip. You can see I'll turn it around then, and that gives me a little bit of help as well to use the reverse end of the tweezers at times. When I'm sewing, you can see I leave the tail of thread attached where I've stopped to sew the joint closed. You don't have to. You could actually start with a new piece of thread. Okay, time to sew the head, and we're going to sew first of all from the chin to the tip of the nose. The head's actually sewn together in 3 parts, so we have these 2 side head pieces and then a head gusset that forms the sort of face and rounded section across the back of the head. So we start just a little bit up from the edge and go back down. This is a stabbing back stitch. I'm pulling it quite firmly to draw the seam together. I'm quite close to the edge of the fabric when I sew these tiny bears, but not so close that I'm going to make the fabric fray. It's probably about 1 millimetre or so from the edge. Let's zoom in a little so you can see it. Okay, so it's time to sew in the gusset. You can see I marked the centre, and I start by putting a stitch right through that centre to attach the centre to the very centre. And I do one more stitch through that point just to really anchor it firmly. I'm just pulling it tight, and I'm looking closely to make sure that's anchored firmly with no gap. Okay, so now I'm just working my way around with my fingers, checking the fit of the gusset, and I'm ready to start stitching. It can be quite fiddly to hold these two pieces together and stitch. So again, we're now just doing back stitch all the way around, and we just make the edges of the two shapes fit together. Where both pieces curve in, that's the eye socket, so making sure they meet well. I'm just continuing all the way around the side of the head until I get down to the base of the neck. it's time to repeat with the other side. So once again, we come back to the nose and we work our way around the side of the head down to the back of the neck. We always start at the nose and work our way back to make sure that the face shape is symmetrical on both sides. If we were to start at the neck edge and work our way forward, it could skew the head a little and we'd have, a wonky shape. So once again, just taking an anchoring stitch, and then I'm about to begin with my back stitch. And away we go. Same as before, taking our time, matching everything together closely, matching the eye sockets together, and keeping those back stitches in a nice straight even line. And so it keeps going, you get the idea, and I knot it off when it gets down to the end. We've left the whole bottom edge open, and we sew that closed in a later step. Thanks for watching. See you next time.